Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video, we're going to be going over Foxy, a new leader to come out of OP07. Now, Foxy is a mono-purple 5-life leader that reads, when attacking Dawn -3, if you have 3 or more Foxy Pirate characters in play, choose up to one of each of your opponent's rested leaders and characters. The cards you chose do not become active during the owner's next refresh phase. Now, first thing I want to point out is, why did they choose this artwork for Foxy? It's a little sus. I think Bandai probably should have reevaluated the position of the wooden thing that is here, but I digress. The actual leader ability of Foxy is very strong, and I think that's the most important thing here, is that it will gain you a lot of momentum, especially in a meta where there are leaders that require when attacking clauses for some of their abilities to transpire. So being able to freeze a character and then also being able to freeze a leader will be able to gain you a lot of momentum, especially when you're playing some of the Foxy Pirate support that we'll get to in a second is very, very frustrating to play against. But before we get into the deck list, if you find anything in this video useful or informative, please make sure to drop a like and a sub. It helps out the channel immensely. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments and join a very active community, please make sure to join the Discord. The link is in the description below. So of course, one of the clauses for this leader for the effect to take place is you have to have at least 3 Foxy Pirate characters on the field, which I think for the most part is pretty easy to hit. However, because you're in purple, there are some of the other just like general good purple cards that you can sprinkle in here and there to add support. So starting off, we are running 3 of the Eustace Captain Kidd. Blocker says your turn once per turn. When a Dawn card from your field is returned to your Dawn deck, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. So when your leader ability is being procced, you're basically only paying 2 for it, -2 instead of the -3, because you're recycling that 1 Dawn to stand as active. So I think this kid is very much needed in this deck, even though it isn't a Foxy Pirate type. Next, I'm running 1 Kamazo. This is a 2K counter. Mostly, I'm using this for Nami because when you're minusing Dawn with some of your leader abilities or maybe your character abilities, this will be able to KO Kayas because you don't really have any other way of getting rid of the Kayas effectively, at least, and you don't want them to be able to bounce it back to hand. But I'm only running 1 because there are very unique situations where this does come in handy, and of course 2K counters are very nice to have. I think we're running a total of maybe 11 in this deck, and Kamazo is going to be one of those that's mostly just going to be used as a 2K. So to touch on some of the Foxy Pirates that we did get in OP07, we have the 3-cost Ito Mimizu. This is an activate main once per turn. If your leader has the Foxy Pirates type and you do not have any other characters in play with this name, add up to 1 rested Dawn from your Dawn deck. So this is a strong card to add very early on because this will instantly allow you to ramp up, which is very important to this deck because if you can get to the 7 Dawn turn quicker, you're able to play down one of your more bigger threats, which we'll get to in a bit, and then start using your Dawn ability. So also, if this is on the field when you're using your leader ability only really costs 2 once again. So we're trying to reduce the amount of the -3 cost because you're gaining that Dawn back with this ability. So very strong to have out. Your opponent's probably going to want to get rid of it, but there are other things on the board that your opponent will probably want to get rid of instead. And so this will usually just sit out on the field using the ability every turn. Then we're running 2 Capote. This is an on-play Dawn -1. If your leader is Foxy Pirates, up to one of your opponent's 6-cost or lower characters cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this will hit a lot of cards, especially when it's only a 3-cost. So this is very nice to have out to be able to stop maybe like a Boa from swinging in. That's probably one of the more prominent targets I can think of off the top of my head. But because this deck is all about getting the tempo back by locking things down and then preventing from attacking, Capote's very important. But I'm only running 2 because there are, I think, better cards from the Foxy Pirates overall that you can be adding in. Now we're running a play set of the 2K Sanji. This says while you have 2 or more fewer Dawn cards than your opponent in your hand, this card costs 3. So there are going to be lots of times, especially when you're using your leader ability, you'll have 2 or less Dawn than your opponent as far as max Dawn goes, and so you can play down the Sanji for 3. Very nice value play, but there's other times where you're not going to be able to have that ability online, and you can just use it as a 2K counter. So very versatile for a purple 2K. Another Foxy Pirate type that is a 2K here is Gina. This is an on-play if your leader has the Foxy Pirates type and the number of Dawn cards on your field is equal to or less than the number of your opponent's side. Add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. There's times you're going to want to play this down and be able to ramp up. It's only a 1-cost ramper, which is really, really strong, so it essentially just pays for itself. Other times, though, it'll be a 2k counter, so just, you know, read the situation of the game state that you're in and figure out if it makes sense to throw this down or not, depending on maybe I'm going to die next turn, or I want to protect my characters better, or I need to get to a higher Dawn number for the next turn, so I need to throw this down. So just, that's up to your discretion, but it can be used either way. Once again, 2k counters we've seen in this game have been very versatile as far as what they can do. They have either the 2k ability, or they can be used and have a very useful effect. It's not like the times of old where we would have like maybe a Scratchman, a Pooh from the starter deck, and all it really is the 2k. Another new card from OP07 is the Tony Chopper Blocker. This is a 2-cost blocker that says on play, if your board has Dawn less than or equal to your opponent, add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck rested. Very much a needed card because you're able to combo this with Porsche, which is a 3-cost, which we'll get to in a second. Otherwise, if you need a blocker in a pinch scenario and you're less Dawn than your opponent, you can ramp up with it and also get a blocker on the field. It hits your Foxy Pirates quota. Overall, this blocker is one of the cards I like seeing very early game. Next, we're running 4 Pickles, and Pickles is a 3-cost, 4,000 power body. It seems a little weak from just basic stat lines. However, what's really important to this card is if you have less or equal Dawn than your opponent, your Foxy Pirate characters other than Pickles cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. So it's an absolutely necessary card to put on the board if you're going against yellow, like Yellow and Nell. It's very much needed if you're going against like Lucci or Moria, for instance. So Pickles is an MVP for the most part because it's able to protect the other pieces on your board that are probably a little bit more important to make sure that you can keep there. Next, we're running Big Pan, which Big Pan is an on play. If you have less or equal Dawn than your opponent, play up to 1 cost 4 or lower Foxy Pirates type character from your hand. We love being able to get a lot of value from our cards. Playing 2 bodies in a single turn is very important, and especially if you can be able to get those Foxy Pirates out faster so that your leader ability is online. I think that is probably the biggest reason you would want to run 2 of these in your deck. You can put out pretty much any of the Foxy Pirates other than Foxy himself, and so you're able to play out Big Pan, put a smaller body on the field, and by then you're probably already at the point where you have another Foxy Pirate, so you have 3 on the field, you can instantly just use your leader ability. So Big Pan is good. Only running 2 because I think some of our top end, I think we want to see a little bit more than Big Pan, but Big Pan, when you do have it, has great value. Next, we have, I think, the MVP of the deck and what you're trying to get as many of as possible in your hand, and that's the 7-cost, 7,000 power body Foxy. Its ability says, on the opponent's turn, if your leader has the Foxy Pirates type, all of your opponent's characters have power minus 1,000. So that's a pretty strong ability to be able to negate a lot of the opponent's attacks, especially if they have a base 5,000 power. They're going to have to start paying a Dawn tax to be able to swing into you instead of being able to establish more threats or bodies. So Foxy is super strong for that ability. And then the other ability is activate main once per turn, add up to 1 rested Dawn from your Dawn deck. So it helps ramp you as well. So you can use your leader ability and then with this Foxy on the field, be able to ramp back up and not feel as bad for using your ability. It is a 7-cost, so it's a little bit harder to get rid of based off of removal. It's a 7,000 power body, so Red Purple Law can't easily get it out. They have to at least invest 2 cards to remove it. So overall, Foxy here is really strong, and being able to play multiple of them is, I think, ideal. If you could put 2 down on the field and minus 2,000 power to everything on the opponent's side of the field when it's their turn, I think you're probably in a pretty good state to win the game from there. Overall, it seems like a weak card, but I think in the context of this deck, awesome. Another card that you're going to want to have in your hand besides Foxy is the 3-cost Porsche. This is an on-play Dawn -1. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may add up to 1 card with the type Foxy Pirates to your hand and then place the remainder on the bottom of your deck in any order that you would like. Then you may play up to 1 4,000 power or lower purple character from your hand. Going first, you're going to want to have this in your opener, and then you're able to probably search out a Foxy, hopefully. If not a Foxy, you can find this card, or you can find the Chopper and be able to ramp the Dawn that you minused and get back to normal, and then establish 2 bodies in a single turn, going into your 5 Dawn turn, being able to play something else, and then instantly your ability is online. Although, to be fair, you're probably not going to want to use your ability right away. Usually, you're going to want to use your ability once the Foxy, the 7-cost, has been established, so that you can ramp back up, but you're trying to get as many Foxy Pirates on the field as possible, and Porsche helps you get there. Then we're running for Manda. This is a 2-cost 3,000 power body. A great card, going second, just instantly throwing it down on your first turn. It says activate main. You may trash this character if your leader has the Foxy Pirates type. Add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck rested. Once again, this is a Foxy Pirates, so your leader ability is more online. And then you can also ramp up with it by just trashing it. So that's the other important thing there. Overall, it's probably one of the weaker cards in the deck, but it does help serve the purpose of what this deck is supposed to be doing. One thing that I've noticed about this deck is, though it does have issues with top end, there's just not a lot of good purple cards past like 8 or 9 Dawn that really serve a general good purpose. And the only one that I could really put in this deck is the 9-cost Kaido from the starter deck. It's an on-play Dawn -5, KO up to one of your opponent's characters the cost of 6 or less, and then this character gains rush during this turn. So I'm running a playset of these because, one, this deck doesn't have a lot of great card draw, so you're going to have to just naturally draw into it. And then 2, like I said, there's not a lot of great top end, and so Kaido being one of the few top end pieces that's really strong in purple is, I think, necessary for this deck. Otherwise, you do play more of a low to the ground play style with this leader, putting a bunch of bodies on and then freezing things. But if you're able to get a 9-cost Kaido out into the field, it's really hard for your opponent to come back from that without having to spend a lot of resources or taking a turn off to answer the Kaido. So 4 of, for me, I've seen people run less, but I do want to see this card at least once in a game, and so 4 pretty much guarantees it unless you're just like really unlucky. And then I talked about the card draw just a second ago, but because you don't have a lot of card draw, I think Queen makes sense in this deck because Queen is a blocker that just draws you 2 cards and then you trash 1 from your hand. So filters and then digs you a little bit deeper in the deck. We're running 3 because I do want to add more cards elsewhere in the Foxy Pirates archetype, and seeing 1 in the game is usually good. Seeing 2 can be good as well, but you're also minusing Dawn for this. And if you don't have a lot of ramping from some of the cards on the field, maybe you don't have things established quite yet from the Foxy Pirates that ramp you, like the Manda, the Foxy, like your chopper blocker, whatever it may be. Queen does hurt you in the long run by minusing Dawn, so I don't want to see it too often in a game, maybe once or twice, if that. But if you don't see anything in hand that you need, Queen's a great answer to be able to dig a little bit deeper. I'm running 1 Ragnarok, and I think I'm running 1 just because if you're going against Bonnie and they throw down an 8-cost kid, what is your answer to that? You don't really have too many answers other than trying to swing into it, but Ragnarok will do that for you. It's a Dawn -1, KO up to one of your opponent's cost 8 or less characters for 5 Dawn. You will have to take a turn off for that, but it's okay because you're able to answer that kid for the most part. The trigger is set up to one of your Dawn from your Dawn deck and play it as active, so if you don't need the Ragnarok and it comes from life, you can just use it as a ramper. And then finally, I'm running 3 of the Megadon Ninetales Rush. This is a 3-cost event that says main, if you have equal or lower Dawn than your opponent, set one of your Foxy as active. That can be either your leader or the 7-cost. So you're able to swing twice with it, which I think a lot of people don't expect, and it might take a few people by surprise. You can definitely close out games that way if you don't have any other top-end pieces. Being able to swing twice with either a leader or your 7-cost, 7,000 power body, I think we've seen it plenty of times before with the green kid leader from the starter deck, and also like Uta being able to swing multiple times in a turn. So why not add it to this deck as well? And the trigger, if you don't need the ability, will allow you to ramp, very similar to the other Ragnarok, the other event there. So overall, I think this deck is pretty decent. I'm not going to say that it's the best deck in the meta, and it's, I think, by far probably the best purple deck, but it's one of those decks where you have to play it pretty well and know how to manage your Dawn effectively, or else you're going to be in a situation where you're using your leader ability and then not being able to establish bodies thereafter, and then your opponent, even though you're using the leader ability to lock down their leader and a character, they're going to be establishing more bodies, and it just becomes a problem if you continuously use it unless you're able to ramp back up afterwards. So one thing to keep in mind is, yeah, you should probably establish a Foxy, the 7-cost body, before you start using your leader ability consecutively. It just depends on the situation, of course. But the other thing that I mentioned earlier is that there's not a lot of top end for this deck, so you kind of have to play a little bit more low to the ground and hopefully gain the tempo back by using your leader ability where it makes sense. But I think Foxy is a strong deck that you could take to locals and probably win a local or two. I don't know if it's one I would take to a big 9-round tournament, but who knows? Maybe there's a person out there that would have better success with it than I. But regardless, let's take it into the sim and see how it does. Okay, against Boa, let's go ahead and take first. What we're looking for here is our Porsche to be able to open up with. Unfortunately, we don't find the Porsche, but we do have this guy sitting here, Ito, to be able to play out. So let's go ahead and just play the Ito in a second. Although, to be fair, a lot of this stuff will probably be bottom decked because Boa is a pretty good control deck if they're playing, like, I don't know, Gravity Blade or Red Rock or whatever it may be. Let's use the ability here and then pass. Tossing a Pudding is fine because, to be quite honest, we're not going to be at a huge hand size. That's one of the things I've noticed about Foxy is you're typically not at a size that you're going to be happy at. I think here, what we can end up doing, go ahead and use this ability. We'll swing 6 at lead. See if we can get something out. And I actually think it might be better here to put out a Chopper. Maybe Chopper Pickles? The reason I'm putting Chopper Pickles out is because what I want to do here is be able to lock down the board the next turn and start using that leader ability. We don't need a second Pickles, so let's go ahead and counter out of 1. We can take this one. We can take 1, and then we'll probably use the blocker. What is 6? 6 would be like a Boa, maybe? Yeah, 6 would be a Boa. Totally fine there. The only answer to Foxy for them is Red Rock, by the way, so that's something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and toss down the Foxy and swing in. Let's use the leader ability to return 3 Dawn and lock down their Moria and the leader. And then the following turn, if the Foxy stays on the field, what we can end up doing is we can play the kid down and start gaining Dawn back. Although we do have Ito and Foxy on the field, we don't really need to do that as much. This turn is one where they're probably going to have to invest some Dawn. It's going to be a little bit annoying for them, of course. I think we can get rid of a Pickles. I think that's fine. And then we can take this hit here. It's a little bit unfortunate. Yeah, Red Rock is probably going to get rid of a couple of these things. That's fine. We can just stack the board again. So let's just do that. Let's get this down. Let's get this down. And then we can put another blocker down as well. So we will be able to lock down some of their stuff. Let's go 5 at 5. 1, 2, 3. We're going to lock down the leader and then Boa Hancock. And then we're going to go 7 at the Moria, or sorry, 9 at the Moria. Let's use our ability. We're going to be at 10 next turn and pass. The only thing they can really do here is play like maybe a 10-drop Kaido and bounce a couple things back to hand, which is definitely annoying. Gravity Blade is also an annoyance as well. Getting rid of a couple cards here is not what we want to see, but I think if we can take this life, I think it's fine. They might want to swing really heavy into the Foxy. Oh, they just swing into me. We'll take that. Another Foxy's not bad either. I think what we can do here is play this Foxy down. Let's go Foxy first. Let's swing with our Manda. At the Jinbei, get a card out of hand. We get the Jinbei for free. Let's use the leader ability here to lock down both Boas. This will probably be a counter, and then afterwards, we'll probably be able to connect with this Foxy. We haven't really seen much top end, being the Kaido here, but on either side of the field, either theirs or ours, which is, I guess, unfortunate for us, because we definitely want to be able to find that Kaido as soon as possible. This turn, I feel like they have to stack the board as best as they can to be able to, get just as much pressure as possible. All right, so what do we do here? We have a couple of blockers. We could go like 5 at face. So we'll go 5 at face. Probably counter out. Knowing Boa, they like to just counter out of most attacks that they can. We could go 5. Put a kid down. Put a chopper down. And then leave up some cards for a potential counter. Because if they get rid of both of the kid and the chopper, that means that they've played a Gravity Blade. Let's swing. Well, I guess let's do this first. Use the card action, doesn't really matter. We needed to do that first so that we can use the leader ability without having to waste Dawn. Let's lock these two down. Oh no, did I do it wrong? No, I didn't. I just clicked this Boa first. Probably a free counter for them. Let's go and swing 7. And let's play the kid. Use our abilities here, and we can pass. So this turn, they have 3 attacks. 3 attacks here, and they have to connect 2 of them, and we have 2 blockers on the field, so we might be in a decent spot overall. What we would really like to see is probably a Kaido. That'd be great. A rush unit would definitely be able to close out a game here. A Foxy alone is going to be difficult for... Okay, so they swing here. That's totally good here. We don't mind this going down, by the way. A Foxy restand would be really good for us as well. We have a couple of those in the deck. We have 4 Kaidos, and... I honestly think we just take this one just to see what we can get. Alright, Porsche. What does this do? Finds a Foxy Pirate type card. There is potential that we can find the restand off of it. Another Boa Hancock is unfortunate. And then they're going to play a blocker as well. Let's see what we get. Kaido off the top, please. Kaido off the top. Kaido probably wins us the game. It is not that, but... Let's use the Porsche. We can grab the restand. We're not going to put anything on the field. I think what we can do is go like 7. We could probably go 9. Yeah, let's go 7 first with our blocker. And then we can go like 7 with our leader, 9 with this Foxy. Let's just use the ability just to be safe. They probably will counter out of this one, and then we can go 9-9, and I don't think they'll have enough. Mathematically, they shouldn't have enough in hand to be able to withstand this attack here. Go 9, it's a block. And then activate this, and then go 9 again. We should have the game. There you go. We didn't need Kaido after all. GG. Ooh, Belo Betty seems to be the flavor of the month right now because it is a very interesting deck as far as the aggression goes from life. I like this hand, so let's keep it. Although I will say that the hand, we want to go first with this curve. This is a great opening hand if we're going first. We have a 3, 5, 7, 9. But it's okay because what we're going to end up doing is playing the Monda into the Porsche. We should be okay from there. So let's play down the Monda. One thing to note is that attacking the Belo Betty can be problematic. Being able to lock down stuff is really good here. If we're able to lock down a Karasu, which they have in hand, then that means we turn at least one of those things that negates our abilities down by 1. Foxy is really good as well because it does reduce their power, although with the Belo Betty leader, you're gaining 3,000 power on all of your trigger or Revolutionary Army types. So it doesn't really negate that much, to be quite honest. Let's use the Porsche. See what we can get out of it. We get a chopper blocker, return the cards to hand, play the chopper blocker, use the ability, and we'll swing 6. And what we can end up doing is, because we're going to be going to 6 Dawn next turn, I want to be able to play our Foxy down as soon as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and just trash the Monda to gain 1 rested so that the next turn will be at 7. And we can on 7 play our Foxy down. Foxy is going to be, I think, one of the best cards we can play, obviously, in any deck that we go against, but I think especially against Belo Betty. Just being able to reduce stuff is really nice. Karasu, of course, we're going to... I don't know if we want to use our leader ability quite yet. If I'm being honest here. Let's go ahead and take this. We have a chopper into a Foxy. It's fine. Now they're going to just go really ham. That is unfortunate. It is what it is. We'll just counter out of a few of these things. Let's swing into them, get them off the field. And we can go ahead and play the Foxy, get the Foxy to ramp us up. This next turn, the Porsche might go, which will be unfortunate for us if that's the case. If the Porsche ends up going, then we aren't able to use our ability quite yet. Double Karasu is pretty annoying, but we can deal with it with a Kaido. That's another thing to keep in mind. We can do a little bit of board control, which is really smart for us. And because they have a Morley, it would make sense for us to go ahead and just... Oh, we can actually just counter out of this one. Do we take it? I think we take it. It's a little bit of a weird dilemma to be in because, well, I don't want the Karasu, I don't want double Karasu on their field. I don't want a single Karasu on the field, so we're going to go ahead and just use this ability. We're going to minus this here. We're going to ramp up one. Let's go ahead and use our leader ability here to lock down their leader and this Karasu. I'm waiting for a trigger to come out at any point in time. I'm terrified of these triggers that could potentially come out here. They definitely have to counter out of some of the stuff that's coming out of life. Or, sorry, they have to, not countering out of stuff that comes out of life. That didn't make sense. They have to counter out of some of these attacks that are coming at their life because, well, Foxy is 7k, so they're gonna have to at least get 2 cards out of hand. No! Why? So here you go. Here are the triggers popping out of life. That's actually a decent trigger to have, but they probably should have put it on the Foxy just to prevent this attack, because I think that this might be lethal. Is their hand really that bad? Wow, their hand's really that bad. They couldn't counter out of any of that. This is really such a glass cannon deck, but man, if they do get these pieces on the field and you can't really deal with them. All right, against Reiju, we're going to mulligan this hand. 2 Kaidos is not what we want to see here. Let's pass the turn. We do have a couple of Porsches now in our redraw, so I think that's fine. Let's swing 5. I'm expecting this to not connect, and then we'll go Porsche. And because we don't have a Foxy quite yet, let's play out or grab a Foxy if we find one, and then play out the Ito over the Chopper. Use the card action. Pickles is probably as good as it's going to get. Seeing 2 Kaidos go does hurt, but that's okay. We'll use this and then ramp back up. We can also go Porsche again the next turn and build up a pretty big board and then start locking down whatever they do. What does this do? A 6 or lower. Let's go ahead and take it. This could be an Ichiji turn. Oh, it's just a Mihawk. That is not the worst thing in the world. Let's go ahead and play out a Porsche again. We'll actually swing first with this Porsche, or we could go 6-6. Ask for a couple 2Ks because they did just put one down on the field. So the chances of another one. I don't know if I want to use my... I'm going to be honest, I don't want to use my ability quite yet. So we're not going to. We'll use this. Grab a Foxy. Perfect. Return the cards to the deck. Play out a Chopper, use the ability, use the Ito ability, and then we can pass from there. We'll be at the Foxy play next turn, so that's really good for us. Mihawk is going to be an annoyance because now it allows them to draw through their deck a little bit quicker. As if Reiju had that problem to begin with. Yikes. So we're both at 6 Dawn, that's fine with me. I think what we can do is probably just let this one go. Or we could counter. Let's counter. Let's see what they do. Because we don't know how many attacks we have coming this turn. They could be going like 5-6. Let's block. And then see what they play out from here. Okay, so Queen's fine. Queen is fine with me. Now, what do I want to do next? I think I just go 5 at face. And we're going to try to bait this Queen to block, because if the Queen decides to block, then we can use our leader ability on it. Let's go 5 again. And I think what we'll do is we'll play down a Foxy. Use this to lock down both of the leader and the Mihawk, so the Mihawk doesn't have the ability come online. This will also force them to use the Queen to swing. And then we can ramp back up to 7. And then the next turn we can play Kaido. So we only really have maybe 2 potential swings coming through this turn. One with the Queen, and then one with probably, I would imagine, a Ichiji. They always hold an Ichiji for when you have tapped units for the most part. Although we haven't seen one in the trash quite yet. So they definitely need stage to be able to allow themselves to put that in the trash. But they can also just play an Ichiji outright because they are at 7 Dawn. It does gain the rush -2 because it's an equal or less Dawn. And they can also just do Gravity Blade. That's the other thing that they can do as well. Completely forgot about that. Let's go ahead and just play this down. One more. Pop this. Let's swing. Well, we just had it. They didn't have any momentum from there, and we quickly exited out. So I guess that was good against Reiju. All right, against Law, I think this will be an interesting matchup here. Red, green Law. I don't like this hand at all. Don't have anything that is worth playing. And this one is arguably just as bad. I think it's fine because we do have, obviously, now we have a Foxy, so it made up for it. But yeah, we have a Manda to contest the board if they decide to swing with some of this stuff. The problem with this Foxy leader ability is that it locks down just their leader, whereas they can shambles the other stuff out that you lock down. Kind of unfortunate. I guess what we'll do is probably an Ito. Let's just swing 5, see if we get any information from them. Of course, they're going to take it. To me, swinging 5 and 6 is the same thing against Law, because they'll usually take the first 2 hits. This next turn, we can put a Foxy on the field. Actually, Duplicate Foxy is pretty good. Duplicate Foxy is really good here. Being able to play a Foxy, instantly turn at least their 5Ks down. They have to start investing more Dawn, which is going to be a nuisance for them. Okay, well, they'll probably swing 8. We'll take the 8. Kid's pretty good too. Is there a world where we want to play the leader ability -3, go down to 4? Actually, what do we have? If we go down to 3, we'll be 6. We can play another Foxy the following turn anyway, so let's just go ahead and use it and lock down their leader ability. Or lock down their leader, at least. And then we could pass from there. None of these units will start attacking, or shouldn't attack, at least, without investing a bunch of Dawn. And then we can play a second Foxy and feel pretty comfortable, I think. Yep, that's fine. We will take it. We don't have any 2Ks, unfortunate for us. They might do like a restand Law. If they do a restand Law, then that means what we have to lock down, or we have to like pitch 2 cards from hand, which definitely sucks. Cavendish, not bad, not bad. I actually think we just go like I think we just attack into it, because once again, they can shambles a lot of this stuff, so it doesn't really matter. The only thing we can lock down is their leader, right? So we'll go ahead and do this. Use the card action, lock this down. And then we can ramp up a bunch this turn. 1, 2, 3. So basically, the ability is for free at this point. And I would imagine they might go like Otama, get the Foxy down, and then swing pretty big with the Cavendish. But yeah, I feel like my leader ability is not very good against Red-Green Law, other than being able to just lock down their leader. Because they're going to have a board full of stuff, and they can shambles whatever I lock down easily. So it doesn't really matter too much. So if you can get rid of stuff on the board, I would advise to do so. This next turn, what we can end up doing is maybe we go like double Double Kid? Double Kid might be good. I figured they'd go Otama, because, like, arrested unit's really good for them. Being able to, like, attack into the Foxy and get it off the field is really good overall. We can start establishing blockers as well. If they go double Otama, then that's fine. Okay, so this is not an issue at all for us whatsoever, I'm going to be honest. Like, they can just, like, recycle the Robin and get rid of our choppers, which could be a problem. So, yeah, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We'll let that go. Cavendish is a really strong card here. Our best bet is to get a kid, or sorry, not a kid, a Kaido would be perfect here. That's fine. Let's just counter out. Gosh darn it. Where's the Kaido at here? Okay, so ideally we can play this down. No, I don't think that's the right play. Let's see what we can do here. We can play the Capote. We could play a kid. This is a tough situation. What do we do? What's our best play? I actually think we go here, Big Pan into Capote, right? Oh, we didn't get the ability off of it, which is unfortunate. Let's go here, use the card action to go here. We'll go 6. Let's use the card action and lock down one more here. I guess it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter if we froze it or not. I guess we could have frozen the Law and then locked this down. And then they're probably going to Otama this next turn as well, which is something to keep in mind. So if they Otama, then that can be a problem. They can go like Otama onto the Foxy. And then swing pretty big into some of the stuff. I think we just get rid of the chopper blocker. We'll take this attack. Kaido is definitely what we needed to see there. And then we just kind of have to stay alive. Because I feel like them going for face will let us know that they are trying to close the game out right here. So yeah, restand Law. Do we bait them is the question. I think we bait them to maybe go into another attack here. Because I don't want to see another blocker. Which it might be another blocker. Okay, no, it's a restand Law. Perfect. Perfect. That is great. That's what we wanted to see. We are at 9 Dawn, and we can now get rid of this chopper, swing 5, 7, 7, 9, or 10, and close out the game from there. So yeah, I think this matchup's a little weird, and I definitely misplayed by playing the Big Pan Capote. I could have probably just played a couple blockers and been okay, but I think overall, this matchup is weird because it's like one of the things where you're only really able to lock down their leader, and locking down any of this stuff doesn't really matter when they do have restand. And they also have ways to bring the stuff that you tapped down back to hand, especially like Zoro. If you tap down a Zoro or keep it frozen, they can just Law, shamble it back, and then bring out the Law, and then play the Zoro with the Law ability. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting matchup. Not really favored for us because of the ability. It's just like offline. Alrighty, Foxy is not awful against Lucci, simply because Foxy is able to at least turn Lucci's ability off. Although I don't really know if I like this hand. We're going to mulligan it to see if we can get something better. This is not better. Having a Pickles is probably the best option to have, but being able to play something down like a Monda on curve is okay. The rest of the stuff here is pretty garbage, not going to lie. Especially against Lucci, it's pretty easy for them to just remove a bunch of this stuff. Yeah, and getting a lobby down on curve is not great. play the pickles out. Let's swing 6 first. Play the pickles out, and then pass. I guess we could have played the Manda, or used the Manda ability so that we were able to get to Foxy next turn. But I think it's going to be okay. The only thing that they can get rid of here is pickles. And then this following turn, what we can end up doing is like Queen. Use the Queen ability to draw into something maybe better. Get the Foxy down. And we should be good there. Alrighty, that's interesting. Okay, so what do we do here? I think what we end up doing is we just play this down. Let's go ahead and swing in. 2, 3. Leader ability just to lock these down. Let's swing a 5. Play the chopper, ramp, and then ramp again. And then this next turn, we have a big board that is probably not going to be KO'd. We're not going to be able to KO these things at least, or he's not going to be able to KO these things. He'll be able to KO the pickles only. And then we can play a Foxy down pretty safely. Okay, they can use a Brook. That's fine. Brook's fine here. Not the worst thing in the world. Kaido is going to be really good for us. We can now safely ramp into that. Let's swing 5. Use the leader ability. Lock these down. Locking the Spandam down, I don't really want to attack into it either because it gives them an option to play it out for value, which is not something we want them to have. We're going to use the Manda to be able to ramp up to 7 so that we can get the Kaido down this next turn. Kaido's going to be able to answer this Brook. And then this following turn, they could potentially get rid of the Foxy. That is something that they can do. Okay. Getting rid of both the Chopper and the Ito happens. It is what it is. The good news here is that we are able to answer both of these bodies as well. Do they already have a Lucci in trash? They don't. That is going to be a slight annoyance because we don't really want to give them the Lucci into the trash. But, yeah. I guess their best play this next turn would be to go maybe like a Sabo. Sabo is probably the most annoying thing to deal with. Mancherry gets back a Khalifa. Okay, that's fine. Mancherry is pretty decent here. We have to swing into the Mancherry. We're not going to be able to use our leader ability, so it doesn't really matter. Let's go and swing 5 into the Mancherry. Let's swing 7 into the Brook. They'll counter out, and then we're going to go and KO this, and then swing here. And then get a Dawn back. We'll be at 7 next turn. We need something else on the field. We need, like, if they play a Moria this turn, that'd be pretty devastating for us, I think. Or if they're able to answer this Kaido, that'd be pretty rough as well. Hate to see it. Their trash is not the most amazing, so if they do play a Moria, their Moria turn is probably going to be like a... Yeah, it's not a Moria this turn, but it wouldn't be very good, is the point. We are 100% going to counter out of this. We want to keep our Foxy on the field. I think that's really important here. Now, they minus the Kaido, which is interesting because they might be trying to get rid of the Kaido. It's at 8 right now. They could go and do like an Ice Age play to get rid of the Kaido. They do Tempest Kick, so it's down to 3. So this might be a Kaku. And I think Kaku's fine. Kaku's like not the worst thing in the world. Okay, so it's a finger pistol, or finger gun rather, which is a pretty good play for them. So let's just swing 7. And we're going to swing another 7. We'll use the Queen, draw. I actually think Big Pan is pretty good here as well, because Big Pan will be able to bring out the Porsche, and we can actually swarm the board next turn. So let's bottom this, or get rid of that, gain arrested, and then pass the turn. Queen is going to go away, unfortunately. We might as well just use the queen if they decide to attack into it. Looks like they're not. They're probably going to go like Moria into just Rebecca. Okay, so it's a Rebecca into a Brook play, and then they probably swing the rest onto this Foxy here. If they go a big 9, we just counter out. Yep, big 9 counter out. Let's go. Okay, so what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to play a big pan because we are at less on here. Let's use this ability, play out the Porsche, use the Porsche ability. I think we just grab a chopper, then we return, play the chopper, use the chopper, and we are at 9. We can't use this quite yet, so that's unfortunate. Let's go ahead and just swing 7 at lead. We're going to pressure them down pretty hard here. And we should be able to lock the Brook and the Lucci leader down this turn. If that isn't... Yeah, that's the most unfortunate thing. It is what it is. Sometimes, I mean, in order to be able to lock these guys down, you have to have that regardless, so... that's fine. We'll lock these two, and then... What do? We play this. We're at 7. We pass. Yeah, I think we're in a good spot here. They have to play out some blockers, and they're not able to use their leader ability. They're not able to swing with the Brook. And we have a couple of bodies to be able to swing into them. That's why Big Pan is really good in this matchup, is because Big Pan can actually take care of this. I don't think they did the math correctly because our Foxy here is not going to go away. If they were trying to get rid of the Foxy, the Brook did not do that. Getting rid of the Porsche is probably a suboptimal play for them and probably not what they intended, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and just take this hit because it doesn't really matter, to be quite honest. And I think what we can end up doing is let's just do a base level swing of 9. Ask for all of the cards out of their hand. And then we'll go a big, whatever the rest is, 14. Yeah, they didn't have counter in hand. I think that was pretty good. Overall, this matchup can be in your favor because you're able to lock down the leader. They weren't able to play a Moria on turn, though, which is also very good for us. So, yeah, good game. Overall, I think Foxy's actually in a pretty good spot for this deck to be a decent meta contender. Based off of just the package of Foxy Pirates alone, you're able to, in a way, have like a control deck in purple, which is a little strange. Unfortunately, the card draw is a little rough in this deck, and the removal can probably be improved upon. I have seen people play the 6-cost, 7,000 power King that on play -1 KO a 4-cost or less. I've seen that being played. I've seen a couple of other things being played in the deck as well, like maybe some more top end, like a 10-cost Luffy. I've also seen and tested myself the 8-cost Uda that's -2 Dawn plus 1,000 power. I think overall, the way that this deck should be played is not necessarily with those cards. You could probably add the King in as a side note. I think that's a really good card to add in here, but just removal is in general a good thing to have. Card draw is definitely needed in this deck as well, so Queen, I think you could probably bump this up and maybe look to remove the Kid. The Kid's not super necessary for your game plan, but it is nice to be able to ramp up, and especially in this deck where you have things you can ramp up naturally with the Foxy, the Ito, and the Tony Chopper. You're able to get that Dawn back anyway, so maybe in hindsight this Kid isn't nearly as good as it is perceived to be in this deck. Probably one of the things you can cut. Ragnarok, you might want to bump up to 2, simply because only one-ofs in decks are a little bit suspicious because, well, you're not going to really come across them that often, and if you're going against green, you're probably going to need this card for Kid. That is a menace for you. And then also, eventually, I hope that we get more stuff that's like top-end for purple. As of right now, it's really weird that purple's archetype is being able to ramp up to things. What are they ramping to? It's like they're all they have is the 9-cost Kaido, really. And 10-cost Luffy, to me, Time Walk Luffy, is not necessarily a great card in any deck that can't ramp back up like a red-purple Luffy or eventually the black-purple Luffy. I think those decks are made for that card, but I think Foxy is not, so I would advise against that, but you could, of course, test it out and see how it goes. Other than that, this deck feels really well-rounded, despite it being a very heavy black meta. I think that Foxy can probably take some people by surprise, which is really nice. You want to play some decks in this meta that may not be very widely popular. Foxy would be one of those, and I think Foxy, because people don't understand how to play against it necessarily, and also the minus power reduction on this Foxy, it just makes it a really strong leader overall. I highly recommend this leader for people that are trying to get into the game and maybe don't have a huge budget to spend on some cards. I think the Foxy Pirates archetype overall is pretty cheap to get into. The only things that would cost some money here would probably be Queen, although I would imagine that these have probably fallen in price over time, especially with the reprints. Maybe Sanji could be a little bit expensive, but these cards aren't integral to the actual way that the deck plays, so all the other pieces here are pretty much going to be cheaper for you. Yeah, this is a great deck to get into if you're looking to spend less money and probably have a decent competitive deck overall. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy Foxy and decide to take Foxy to some locals. Let me know how it goes if you do. And as always, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.